It's Russian soldiers pour in, is the headline. Russia assaulted cities and towns along a boomerang-shaped front, hundreds of miles long, it says. Yes, I don't know that helped, Carla. Yes, Russia assaulted cities and towns along a boomerang-shaped front hundreds of miles long and poured more troops into Ukraine on Tuesday in a potentially pivotal battle for control of the country's eastern industrial heartland of coal mines and factories. If successful, the Russian offensive in what is known as the Donbass would essentially slice Ukraine in two and give President Putin a badly needed victory following the failed attempt by Moscow's forces to storm the capital, Kiev. Well, it's kind of turning out this way. This is what I predicted, that maybe, Zelensky will concede and say, okay, you can have the Donbass, and that will end the war, hopefully. But I mean, I have lots of concerns about this in many ways, and that is that, it just empowers Vladimir Putin, doesn't it? And if he has success in taking the Donbass, then maybe he'll look to other places, that he feels that he could have some success in as well. All on board, it's a mix, is the headline, and a photograph of an unmasked Southwest Airlines flight attendant checking the bins before a flight left Dallas on Tuesday. This is interesting, isn't it? I mean, who would you wear a mask? Well, so I'll rephrase that. Would you not wear a mask right now, considering the mask mandate has been lifted? Would you not wear a mask if you were going on a flight? I'd be interested to know why. Because personally, just because a Trump judge in Florida says that I shouldn't wear a mask, which goes against all of the evidence to suggest that it would be better to wear a mask because the pandemic is not over. 1 million people are now dead in America, by the way. 1 million people. Why would you want to put yourself at risk? How uncomfortable is that? If I go out without a mask on now, I kind of feel like something's missing. Like my mask is very much a essential part of my face. Most major airlines, including North Texas-based Southwest and American, said effective immediately masks would no longer be required on domestic flights. Several airports are taking a wait-and-see approach. Others did away with mask requirements as soon as the TSA said it would no longer enforce the mandate. On trains and buses, Amtrak and Greyhound said masks were optional. Lyft and Uber said masks would be optional while riding or driving. I mean, look, if you're driving Uber, the first thing you're going to want to do is wear your mask with all different people getting in and out of your car. But you see, anywhere that is enclosed, anywhere that is a tight, enclosed space, you're going to need a mask. You just are. I mean, even if there wasn't a pandemic. There are plenty of... I mean, look at Chinese tourists that traveled before the pandemic. They always wore a mask when they traveled. They don't want to get sick abroad. Sierra Applewhite walked into Los Angeles International Airport on Tuesday morning for her return flight to Dallas, asked for a mask and slipped it on before even realizing she was looking at the full faces of dozens of other passengers. It says the White House dropped efforts to enforce mask mandate on airplanes, at airports and on other forms of public transport late on Monday after a federal judge in Florida struck down the rule. Applewhite kept on her mask during the 3-hour flight. Good. Just wear your mask, It's not for me to tell you to wear your mask, but wear your mask. Just wear it. It's not for me to tell you, but just wear it. I mean, it's up to you. You do whatever you want. Just wear your mask. Former North Texas State Senator Wendy Davis, best known for her 13-hour filibuster against an abortion bill in 2013, filed a federal lawsuit over the Senate Bill 8, contending that the restrictions that went into effect on the 1st of September banning abortions after 6 weeks are unconstitutional. The lawsuit argues that law violates the plaintiff's due process and free speech and asks the court to declare both this law and Texas's older abortion law unenforceable. So yes, interesting. That's the Dallas Morning News. I mean, I just don't know who would want to live in Florida or Texas at the moment unless you're a kind of staunch, Trumplican. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why else? Unless you're a Trumplican. There's 3 Democrats living in Florida. There's 6 Democrats living in Texas. And there's 4 Democrats living in Arizona, and I know 2 of them. I mean, that's what's going to happen, isn't it? We're going to end up with this, we're going to end up with this ghettoized states, United Ghettos of America. Is that what it'll be? The United Ghettos of America. I don't know. I feel like a lot of these are going to get challenged, in courts. Everything ends up in court here. Everything, You have to breathe for a moment. Somebody sues you. Let's look to Florida next. Is it time for me to do another one of those things? I think it is. Yes. Thank you if you've been chatting. I can't actually see you today because after all this, I don't actually have access to what you're saying, but I'm very pleased that you're here. We're working on it. So if you are with us, then that's great. If you'd like to send me a message, and you can see me right now, then you're watching, and you're watching on an Echo show or Fire TV. The magic word is say. So wake up your device and then say. And if you're listening right now on an Echo speaker and you can't see me, then go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv. So that's all you have to do. Easy peasy, scritty, polity. Okay, let's go back to some of the morning papers here. Braden... Oh, no, I've done that one. Hang on. Oh, no, I haven't done the Bradenton Herald. A researcher predicts 22 named storms and 11 hurricanes. Yes, Tampa Bay residents have a tendency to brush aside concerns about hurricane season as annual forecasts arrive each spring. Bob Bunting understands why so many are carefree. A major hurricane hasn't struck the region in more than 100 years, but Bunting, a hurricane researcher and chief executive officer for the Climate Adaptation Center in Sarasota, says that's a dangerous way to approach hurricane season any year, but especially as of late. That's because of storm seasons are becoming longer and fiercer on average, he said, meaning Tampa Bay's centuries-long string of luck could end sooner rather than later. And with Climate Adaptation Center forecasting 2022 to be a 7th straight above average season, the big storm could strike as soon as this year. I mean, again, is this like a Republican-Democrat thing? Is it that in Republican states, because there's less interest in climate change, that they're less inclined to kind of consider it? Because, people are going to end up like in a spin, like literally in the middle of the eye of a tornado, their house spinning, like in The Wizard of Oz. And they'll still be like, nope, I don't believe in climate change. Wah! That's what's going to happen. Disney and DeSantis. He looks like a Disney character himself, doesn't he, Ron DeSantis? He could quite easily be... Like, if you took Mickey Mouse's head off, I'd expect Ron DeSantis to be inside. There's like a similar... They got a similar thing going on. Maybe I've never actually seen Mickey Mouse and Ron DeSantis in the same place at the same time. So, and he is a Mickey Mouse governor. Thank you for these. These are the jokes, folks. It says Governor Ron DeSantis announced on Tuesday he has expanded the legislature's special session on redistricting this week to cut to the core of his latest political enemy. And announced he wants lawmakers to repeal the law that allows the Walt Disney World Resort to operate as a self-governing body. It says, I'm announcing today we are expanding the call of what they're going to be considering this week, DeSantis said at a news conference in the Villages. Why can't he just retire to the Villages? Just go now. He says, yes, they will be considering the congressional map, but they'll also be considering termination of all special districts that were enacted in Florida prior to 1968, and that includes the Reedy Creek Improvement District. That was the special taxing district and governing body for the Walt Disney World Resort. It was created by state lawmakers in 1967, comprised of 39 square miles, 2 cities inland in Orange and Osceola counties. So there we go. Interesting. Disney can control its own zoning. It has its own police and fire departments. It operates independently of all other rules imposed on counties in the state. Repealing the special taxing district status would require the state to put in place a replacement structure. The governor did not elaborate on what he would like to see. The attack on Disney came after the company... see page 5. There we go. I'm just Just angling my screen up a little bit because I can't really see anything. There we go. That's better. Now I can see you. Better. It's very interesting, isn't it? Where we're this whole thing. To me, this is very interesting because DeSantis is really like flexing his muscles in a way that I didn't realize was possible for a governor. In this way, like this guy is literally like going out of his way to cause trouble. Just wants to cause trouble. The guy's just a troublemaker. Fundamentally, the guy's a troublemaker. That's what it's all about for him, making trouble. So I mean, how do you qualify a governor who is going to like keep maneuvering out of his own jurisdiction? How do you qualify that? Because that's really what this guy's doing. It's not really his jurisdiction, but he's kind of made it so. I don't know. I just feel like we are watching the slow decline of places like Florida and Texas. I feel like they're bringing it on themselves. And that's what worries me the most about this type of thing. It's like people underestimate the cost of rocking the boat, and they're just doing it because they want to like draw attention to themselves. Okay, what else do we have here on the old newspaper? State's rejection of maths textbook creates confusion. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I was trying to work out how a maths textbook can have a racial implication, but apparently it has. They say days after rejecting dozens of maths textbooks for including what the State Department of Education claimed were indoctrinating concepts, Florida officials on Monday continued to refuse requests for examples. The material is proprietary, Governor Ron DeSantis said during a news conference. I mean, what does that even mean, that it's proprietary? The lack of information caused a buzz over the weekend, with the state's announcement capturing attention nationally as the latest flame in ongoing classroom culture wars. Local officials, publishers, and other interested parties scrambled for specifics and were left scratching their heads as to what exactly the state was talking about when it said maths textbooks contain prohibited topics, including references to a critical race theory. I mean, I said this. It just doesn't make any sense. Carl, I've just come up with an amazing thing, by the way, I must just tell you. I've just worked out how to raise the stand on my laptop so that my eye looking in the camera is now at the same level as my screen. And I've been sitting here for weeks looking down at this thing. And I was just looking at this stand and I was thinking, I think that thing could like come up a little bit more. Goes all the way up to the camera. It's a game changer. So now I feel like I can look at you the whole time. And I don't have to look down at the screen because it's right here. I mean, this is a good computer set. I spent money on this, and I don't normally spend money, but I spent like nearly $25 on this stand, which is not like me at all. I wouldn't normally take such a, wouldn't normally do something so significant, but in this case, I really felt it was necessary, and here we are. You see, now it's totally worth the money because I'm actually making use of the stand. The stand is up high. It's wonderful. What a game changer! Who knew that this was even possible? What was I wasting my time doing that for? I must be crazy. I think I am a little bit crazy. I mean, that's not really in question, is it? But anyway. Textbook selection has always been a highly politicized area, said Krista Finan, the executive director of the National Coalition Against Censorship. It's not a surprise that textbooks are being attacked. It just seems so bizarre that they managed to find CRT in maths textbook. It's direct from satire. Yeah. We see what they've actually accidentally done here. These people is they've done exactly what this guy's saying. They've undermined their own argument for books that could potentially contain race issues that they have a problem with by saying that all the maths books are also dangerous. I mean, what is it that they want to do? They just want to get easier maths books, easier books that are very basic so that their stats look better, so it improves the education in Florida, which is pretty terrible as it stands. Is that the reason they're doing it? I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. They say several publishers whose books were rejected did not respond to requests for comment. Really? I wonder why that is. I mean, probably because it's just so ridiculous. It's just so ridiculous. I'm just like rearranging the furniture in here now. I kind of feel like I've got a whole thing going on. A little bit of furniture rearranging. I mean, that's kind of fun, isn't it? Look. And now, I'm looking at you, but I'm looking at the screen. This is life-changing for me. I need to move over a little bit as well. I moved over for Jam and Renee yesterday, and now I need to move myself back. What's annoying you? There you go. You see, that's all this stuff over here, this paraphernalia. So, I mean, this is, we've got lots to talk about here. There's so much involved in this particular subject. But I really get the sense that we are living in a parallel universe, when they're banning maths books. Richard Weir, spokesman for publishing giant Savas Learning, said his company worked to ensure its materials would meet Florida's new standards. He said, like many other companies that submitted bids to the Florida DOE, Savas has been notified that some of our maths programs developed specifically for Florida have not been recommended at this time. Yeah, I mean, this is what I was saying earlier about DeSantis kind of going beyond his jurisdiction, His jurisdiction fundamentally should not extend to things that there are experts that are already involved in. You know what I mean? Like like education, for example. That's what educators do, That's their job. That's their skill. And the problem is if you try and change that, if you try and undermine that, then you're undermining anybody who is a specialist. I mean, DeSantis is definitely not a specialist in maths books, but for some reason he's taking it upon himself to say that these books are not acceptable for Florida. So he's now claiming that he's like a kind of an educator, and that in itself is wrong. There's so much there, isn't there? So much there to consider. Okay, let's have a look at a couple more stories here for you. I think we're going to have to go to a new newspaper. Let's go to the St. Lucie News Tribune next. They lead this morning with lawmakers open special session. Florida lawmakers open a special session on Tuesday to redraw congressional district boundaries to eliminate 2 of the 4 seats now served by black Democrats, is what it says. This is while outside the Capitol, opponents condemned the move as racist. The Republican-controlled legislature is expected to comply with Governor Ron DeSantis' demand to recast the state's 28 congressional districts to where 20 of them will be favored to elect Republicans. The state's current congressional delegation includes 16 Republicans and 11 Democrats, with Florida gaining an additional seat this year because of population gains revealed in the latest census. What, more people are moving to Florida? In bolstering likely Republican numbers out of Florida at a time when the GOP nationally is intent on recapturing control of Congress in this fall's midterm contests, DeSantis would also dramatically reshape the boundaries of the district, now held by Representatives Al Lawson of Tallahassee and Val Demings of Orlando, both black Democrats elected in 2016. Well, do you know, this is my commitment to the project. I actually watched the 2-hour meeting that they had, that they're talking about here, this Tuesday special session. I watched the whole thing. I found the stream of it. I've tweeted it. I tweeted it yesterday, kind of linking you to, if you're that interested in, in it. I was interested because I want to see what it's like, to see how they are rebranding their racism and their white supremacy to mean something else. And they weren't doing a very good job of it, I'll be honest. It was pretty embarrassing. And I really felt like this is... What they were saying was that Florida, or certain parts of Florida, do not fall under the Voting Rights Act. So, the redistricting is done in order to mean that there is suitable representation. So black communities, African American communities, need suitable representation. Democrats, arguably. And the Republicans are redrawing the map to prevent these African American areas, the poorer areas, from being able to elect a Democrat. They're basically rigging the election, and they're doing it in plain sight. So such is life. Got to say hi to Stacey because I know that she's definitely listening. So, thank you, Stacey. Stacey's also subscribed, by the way. So if you want to subscribe yourself, you just press the subscribe button in the bottom left-hand corner. You're here with us on The Anthony Davis Show on Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. If you're enjoying the show, there's two ways to support the show that would really help me out. If you're watching right now and you see that subscribe button, then please click it. Subscribing will let you know where we're going when we're going live, and I have some special plans coming up in the next few weeks for those of you who are subscribed. Another way you can really help is, no matter where you're watching or listening, is leaving a review. So just go to backchannel.tv and click leave a review, and your positive reviews help keep this show going. So that's backchannel.tv and leave a review. I'm Anthony Davis. This is Backchannel. We're going to check out the latest news in just a second in the US News Update. It's a daily podcast that I do that enables you to see or get a handle on what's going on across the United States. It's just a 2-minute podcast. You can download it wherever you get yours. And we're going to play it for you now. Here it is. It's Wednesday, April 20. From the Volley Network, this is your daily US News Update. I'm Anthony Davis. The Justice Department said on Tuesday it will not appeal a federal district judge's ruling that ended the nation's federal mask mandate on public transit, unless the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention believes the requirement is still necessary. In a statement released a day after a Florida judge ended the sweeping mandate, which required face coverings on planes and trains and in transit hubs, Justice Department spokesman Anthony Coley said officials believe the federal mask order was a valid exercise on the authority Congress has given the CDC to protect public health. He said it was an important authority the department will continue to work to preserve. Coley said the CDC has said it will continue to assess public health conditions, and if the agency determined a mandate was necessary for public health, the Justice Department would file an appeal. The federal judge's ruling the last major vestige of a federal pandemic rules and led to a mishmash of new locally created rules that reflected the nation's ongoing divisions over how to battle the virus. Major airlines and airports in places like Dallas, Atlanta, Los Angeles and Salt Lake City quickly switched to a mask-optional policy. Los Angeles County dropped its mandate for mass transit, and a train conductor in New Jersey told commuters of their masks, "Feel free to burn them at will." Meanwhile, over 1 million people in the US have died from the coronavirus. Your daily US News Update is part of the Volley Network. To hear my live daily morning show, ask your Amazon Echo device to open Backchannel. There it is, the US News Update. You can get it wherever you get your... Welcome to Backchannel, and don't forget you can join in at any time by waking up your Echo device, saying the word "say," and then your message. We're looking through some of the morning papers at the moment. We're in Florida with the St. Lucie News Tribune, talking about Ron DeSantis trying to, prevent Democrats from ever getting seats and preventing African Americans from getting representation. It's all being done out in the open. There's nothing being hidden here. It's all, it's what they call it, a coup in plain sight. Amazon Center Rising, a photograph of the new Amazon Fulfillment Center continuing to take shape at the Midway Business Park on Tuesday in Port St. Lucie. The completed center will be 1.1 million square feet and will be a non-sortable center, meaning it will pack and distribute larger, bulkier items. So it's kind of interesting, isn't it? I mean, I do love a big construction project. I find it fascinating. Oh, I have watched documentaries on how Amazon warehouses work. There's plenty of them. If you go on YouTube, there's plenty of documentaries now. I actually wanted to make a documentary about that. You know, I really thought that would be a kind of a fun thing, and obviously somebody beat me to it. But no, I'm fascinated because, you know, I'm a big Amazon user. I bought a soundbar a couple of days ago. I don't know if I mentioned this. I think I did when I was talking to Jam and Renee. And I bought it from the Amazon warehouse. The only downside, though, is they don't tell you how far it's traveling. You know, if you're buying a used one, which is what I like to do to save money and save the planet, it's coming from Pennsylvania for me to save a few dollars, which is frustrating because if I'd have known it was coming from Pennsylvania, then I probably would have bought a new one that was already here in California. You know, because it's now traveling halfway, well, across the entire country, effectively, from the east to the west coast. I wish they told you that. You know, I just kind of wish they told you that. Anyway, it's not your problem. I know you've got your own things to worry about. But the point is, it was, you know, it was of concern to me anyway. Ex-deputy in St. Lucie County cuts deal on charges. This is prosecutors reached a plea deal on Monday with the former St. Lucie County Sheriff's deputy that calls for the state to drop multiple counts of sexual battery and other felonies filed in 2015 and spares the filed law officer decades in prison. He was arrested while on duty and charged with sexual battery with a 31-year-old woman while he was on duty. Well, how's he got off? Over the next few months, additional charges were filed, resulting in Kramer facing 15 offences, including 5 cases of sexual battery by a law enforcement officer, kidnapping, and 3 counts of soliciting or attempting unlawful compensation as a public servant. He was arrested in 2017 while incarcerated, as he was accused of punching a fellow inmate in the face and putting him in a headlock. Initially held on bond of nearly $2.5 million, Kramer was incarcerated a little more than 4 years before being released on a reduced bond of $627,000. I don't quite understand. He's cut a deal on his charges. I mean, how do you cut a deal with a guy that is just guilty on all of this stuff? I mean, why would you cut a deal with this guy? It just doesn't make sense to me. He's been done for 15 offences. Don't cut him a deal. It's Florida, though, isn't it? You know? It's Florida. Let's go to Florida today. They lead with state denies BPS maths textbook. Here we are. Same story, slightly more detail. Several math textbook and Brevard Public School adopted for that Brevard Public Schools have adopted for the coming school year, including the district's main picks for grades K-5, have been rejected by the Florida Department of Education, setting back the district's plans for the 2022-2023 academic year. It says the Florida Department of Education said in a Friday news release titled "Florida Rejects Publishers' Attempts to Indoctrinate Students" that the agency has refused to adopt 54 of the 132 submitted textbooks. The department said it was the most it had rejected in state history. The list includes several maths textbooks that BPS had selected to adopt starting next year. After a lengthy review process, those books were adopted during a January school board meeting after months of public viewings during which parents and community members were invited to give feedback on the books. I mean, what, are they rejecting books that have been written by black people? Is that what it is? Wouldn't surprise me. BPS has not purchased the books because district administrators knew the state had yet to officially adopt the textbooks. Okay. NASA crew 4 astronauts arrive at KSC, not KFC. I mean, it would be good to have a Kentucky Fried Chicken before you go up into space, I would assume. You know? You know, a little light vomiting on the way up. Lovely. Waiting to go is the headline. The 4 astronauts slated to fly NASA and SpaceX's next crewed mission arrived at Kennedy Space Center on Monday, kicking off a series of preparations ahead of liftoff this weekend. So, there it is. I'm really enjoying the tunes today. There's something lovely going on here, isn't there? Do-do-do. Do-do-do. Yeah, still no dashboard. I can see that. NASA's Bob Hines, Keel Lindgren, Jessica Watkins, and the European Space Agency's Samantha Cristoforetti touched down at the former shuttle landing facility just after lunchtime in a NASA-owned private jet. Their next ride will be a Crew Dragon capsule atop a Falcon 9 rocket scheduled to take flight at 5:26 on Saturday, April 23rd. It's an amazing time to be part of a human spaceflight, they said during a post-landing briefing. They say, as we're coming in for a landing, we had the opportunity to take a look at pad 39A right next to our pad. The Space Launch Rocket is sitting there, and it looks fantastic. Isn't that great? It looks fantastic. And then there's a story on the front of Florida Today about special session on map opens up. Black Democrats attack move as racist to erase congressional districts. That's a bit better of a headline. It's a bit clearer as to what's really going on there. Florida lawmakers opened a special session on Tuesday to redraw congressional district seats, boundaries, to eliminate 2 of the 4 seats now served by Black Democrats. While outside the Capitol, opponents condemn the move as racist. The Republican-controlled legislature is expected to comply with Governor Ron DeSantis' demand to recast the state's 28 congressional districts to where 20 of them would be favored to elect Republicans. So there we are. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, this is the reality of these Republican states now. It's just all out white supremacy. And with no fear, And there's a photograph of Senator Chevron Jones from Miami Gardens speaking to a crowd on Tuesday in opposition to Ron DeSantis' proposed congressional redistricting map. It says the Republican-controlled legislature is expected to comply with the governor's demand. The state's current congressional delegation includes 16 Republicans and 11 Democrats, with Florida gaining an additional seat this year because of the population gains revealed in the latest census, as we discussed earlier. So there we go. That's the headlines. Just those 3 stories about the textbooks and NASA and the special session opening up. We could go to Los Angeles next, seeing as that's where I am. Why not? Should we jump to the LA Times? Oh, sadly, the LA Times link is the same as the Florida Today link. A little booby trap. So I'm sorry I can't see your messages right now. We've got a little gremlin in the system, which we're trying to work out right now. So I can't see what you're saying, if you're saying anything at all. But I'm grateful to you for being there. I really am. So as soon as the, oh, the irony. Yes. This is the Anthony Davis Show here on Backchannel, and we are here every weekday, Monday to Friday, from 9 a.m. Pacific. That's 12 o'clock Eastern. Send us a message. If you can see me right now and you're watching on an Echo Show or Fire TV, the magic word is say, and then you can say your message. So you just wake it up, then say, and then your message. And if you're just listening right now on an Echo speaker and you cannot see me, then go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv. Click join the chat. And that's the best way to do that. So that's backchannel.tv. Backchannel.tv. So yeah, wonderful. Nice to know that you're there, if indeed you're there. I don't know that you're there, but I'm presuming you're there. So, but I'm definitely here. I'm here, you're there, we're all here together, Let's look at the LA Times now. They lead with Russian push intensifies in East Ukraine. Determined to seize control of Ukraine's industrial heartland, Russia on Tuesday intensified its assaults across the country's east while keeping up the bombardment of Ukrainian forces in the besieged southern port of Mariupol. Russian Defense Ministry spokesman Igor Konashnikov said that in 24 hours, Russian forces had launched strikes against more than 1,200 Ukrainian military facilities and targeted more than 1,200 troop concentrations, details that could not be independently verified. Ukraine said Russia has begun its long-expected all-out assault of the east, and Moscow's top diplomat confirmed on Tuesday that the struggle has entered its next stage. Western military officials and analysts warn the current Russian attacks may be setting the battlefield for a larger and potentially more brutal offensive planned by Moscow. They say, "We think that these offensives are preludes to a larger offensive that the Russians plan to conduct." The official who spoke on condition of anonymity said Russia still has about 75% of the soldiers and weapons it assembled before the Ukraine invasion and is currently conducting shaping operations. Interesting. So they're kind of preparing themselves for something bigger. Masks come off, concerns arise. A new mask-optional phase of the pandemic is arriving, sparking concern from some experts that the shift is occurring too soon. For months, local officials have been easing mask rules in public places such as supermarkets and shopping malls, but a federal court ruling on Monday striking down the federal mask-wearing order on public transportation systems accelerated the trend, with Uber, Lyft and many airlines and transit agencies making face coverings optional. Well, let's be honest, they're not going to go back now, are they? They're not going to go back. Once they've done this, they've done this. They're not going to go back. And what else do we have here? Netflix posts a rare decline. Yes, this is interesting. After experiencing surging growth during the pandemic, the company that ushered in the streaming revolution finds itself in unfamiliar terrain. Netflix said on Tuesday it lost 200,000 subscribers in the first quarter. Well, you know why, don't you? They all came to Backchannel. That's why. All of those Netflix subscribers, they're like, I'm done with this. I'm going to Backchannel. They missed their own projections of adding 2.5 million customers and marking the first decline in more than a decade. The streaming giant estimated it would lose 2 million global subscribers in the current quarter, an extraordinary contraction for a company that transformed the television industry and drew legions of customers with ad-free binge viewing. Oh yeah, it's only just occurred to me that Netflix is ad-free. I'm like, oh yeah. Although Netflix remains the biggest player in streaming with 222 million subscribers globally, it faces an inevitable slowdown after a surge in business during the pandemic. The company said its growth was hampered by the proliferation of password sharing and other factors, such as an increase in streaming services and connected TVs. Well, I don't know that I share passwords. I mean, my sister pays for it, and I mean, is that fair? That, one person in the family is paying for Netflix and we're all using it? We're not going outside of the family. We're staying in the family. But if they're going to crack down on password sharing, are they just going to say, okay, outside of the family, outside of the household? Well, they're going to do something, aren't they? Exactly. It's very difficult to police. I mean, they've been trialing a password prevention sharing scheme with a small number, probably 200,000 people. And I don't know how that's gone. That's kind of interesting, though. They've actually, they're obviously very aware that this is an issue. I mean, I pay for my Amazon one. I pay for my Apple TV one. I pay for my Disney Plus one. But my Hulu and my Netflix, are shared with family. And I share my ones of the others with the others as well. I mean, they made $7.9 billion in the first quarter of this year. I mean, why is this a problem? I love the fact that it's like front page news. Big deal, They made nearly $8 billion in the first quarter. So that's the LA Times for us today. I hope that's of interest to you. Shall I do that? Should we do that? Having a look here if I should do that story about the Los Angeles Police Department. Looks kind of interesting. This is not long after the death of George Floyd in 2020. Labour organiser Hugo Soto Martinez protested at Echo Park Lake, where he and hundreds of others demanded cuts to the Los Angeles Police Department. "We're not going to stop until we defund the police, get rid of District Attorney Jackie Lacey and transform the society," he wrote on Twitter. Weeks later, Administrator Dulce Vasquez posted her response to the city's council decision to cut hundreds of LAPD officers. "Protesting work," she wrote with the hashtag defund police. Community activist Eunice Hernandez was issuing her own calls for change, saying funding should be moved out of law enforcement and into housing, childcare and other social services. "When we say abolish the police," she wrote last year, "we mean replace it with this." Now, all three are running for Los Angeles City Council in the June 7 election. I mean, that was the problem with the defund the police slogan, that it made it sound like Democrats wanted to take money away from the police, and actually that's not what they were suggesting. It should have been refund the police, to refund them in a different way. But I agree with this. I just think that law enforcement has become like a law enforcement has become militarized in Los Angeles. They have tanks and water cannon and military uniforms and stuff. Do I was thinking, Carla, yesterday when I was driving through Hollywood and Vine, which is a big kind of crossroads. I'm looking forward to you visiting, by the way, Carla. I have a feeling that maybe here is a place that you should come visit. I'm sure you'd love to. You should come spend a few weeks with us here and do the show. You should squeeze into this little booth with me and we could do the show from in here. You'll have to sit over there, which is not going to... It's like 4 inches by 6 inches. So if you're good with that, then that works for me. But I was thinking about Hollywood and Vine 2 years ago when the kind of protests were happening, the George Floyd protests and all that stuff. Donald Trump put the military on the streets. Do you remember? The National Guard were out on the streets in all the major cities. And I remember driving down Hollywood and Vine. I took some photos of it. I might send them to you, Carla, just because, just because. And I was like, hang on a second, this is crazy. People were protesting police brutality. And what does the federal government do? They put the military on the streets. It's like the opposite of what they should do. It's very interesting to me. Very interesting indeed. That was a very scary time, Let me see if I can see these photos here. I mean, I'm just trying to kind of get my head around what it was like during that period, where we can remember that period, where they put the military on the streets, and it's like, I was just like, I couldn't believe it. But I think, you get used to these things, don't you? You get used to these things. You just be like, yeah, this is normal. And it's like, it really isn't normal. Let's not allow this to become normalized in any way, really. Let's jump to the Napa Valley Register next for California. They lead this morning with clean wine, hard to define and regulate. This is the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau have issued a statement on the use of the word clean in the marketing of alcohol. Interesting. highlighting a potentially misleading term used by some wine producers. So while not inherently problematic, labeling a bottle as clean wine doesn't actually say anything about the product, but may leave consumers thinking they have made a better choice and that is in some cases better for their health, but it's not the case. They say we've received inquiries about the meaning of the word clean and when used in the labeling and advertising of alcohol beverages subject to the Federal Alcohol Administration Act. But regulations do not define the word clean, and we do not have standards for the use of the word. I've never actually seen the word clean on wine. Have you, Carla? I've never seen the word clean on wine. Clean wine. I've seen the word red on wine and white on wine. But I've never seen the word clean. Dashboard's back. Bingo. Okay, so thank you for fixing that. My sweet bosses, Rob and Riyadh, appreciate the effort that you've made. Been sitting here like a lemon. A yellow lemon, a clean yellow lemon. So we're looking at this story, clean wine, hard to define and regulate. So I've never seen that. If you've seen the word clean on any wine, I'd be keen to know. Just a yes or a no is fine, but I've never seen it. Okay, let's scroll down a little bit here. More time to review Walt Ranch. Napa County will take more time to review a crucial element needed for the controversial Walt Ranch Vineyards project in the mountains east of the city of Napa to move ahead. The County Board of Supervisors on Tuesday discussed a plan to mitigate the loss of 14,000 carbon sequestering trees. Walt Ranch applicants proposed to preserve 248 acres of woodland that otherwise would be developed. And we need the trees, you know? We need the trees. But we also need housing. So it's like, what do? Maybe you build the house out of the trees that you knock down. I mean, maybe that's the answer, you know? Opposition mounts against Gavin Newsom's homeless plan. This is interesting because, living in California and certainly Los Angeles, the homeless crisis is beyond here. It's just beyond. And no leader has successfully managed to come up with a plan for this. It's such a difficult subject to make work. Well, Newsom unveiled a far-reaching effort to push more people into court-ordered treatment for severe mental illness and addiction. Homeless advocates are calling it legally misguided and immoral as the proposal's first public hearing at the state capitol has been delayed. More than 36 organizations and individuals, including the American Civil Liberties Union, Disability Rights California, and the Western Center on Law and Poverty, signed an April 12 opposition letter raising serious concerns with Assembly Bill 2830, one of two nearly identical measures moving through the legislature to implement Newsom's Community Assistance, Recovery and Empowerment Court. The group often has significant sway among liberal legislative Democrats, the kind of influence that could hinder Newsom's hopes for a new law to be in place by July 1st. Newsom touted the Care Court framework last month as an innovative strategy to help an estimated 7,000 to 12,000 people into housing and much-needed treatment. Under the proposal, family members, behavioral health care providers, and first responders, among others, could petition a civil judge to initiate a care plan for eligible individuals who lack medical decision-making capacity. I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? Because a lot of homeless people have mental health issues, have addiction issues, whether it be opioids or fentanyl or whatever else they're able to access on the street, heroin, obviously. And the problem is that they're not often of sound mind to be able to make that decision about getting help, you know? And so because they might not have dependents or guardians, they don't have people to make that decision for them. So what do you end up with? You know, you end up with a whole community of people who, in a self-fulfilling prophecy, they're unable to help themselves. Well, the governor said that Care Court would focus on the most vulnerable Californians suffering from severe mental health conditions such as schizophrenia and individuals who've cycled in and out of hospitals and jails. The program will be voluntary and include assistance from both the public defender and so-called supporter, a person who would serve as a personal guide through the recovery process. I mean, I don't see that this is a bad idea if it's voluntary, you know? Because it's about offering people help, not insisting people get help, but offering people help. And that's what it sounds like he's doing. Hi to No Name, who's just popped in. If you want to change your name, by the way, you are welcome to just tell your device to change your name, and it will. It's very clever technology. Very clever. This is the Anthony Davis Show, as you can see, here on Backchannel. And we're here every weekday, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. Pacific. That's noon Eastern. And send us a message. You can see me right now. Then you're watching on an Echo Show device or a Fire TV. So the magic word there is say. Just wake up your device and say the word say. And if you're listening right now on an Echo speaker and you can't see me, well, then go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat to message. That's backchannel.tv. And so nice to see you. No Name, first time on the show. If you want to give yourself a name, then like I say, just wake up your device, say change my name, and it will do that. Back to the LA Times, talking about homelessness. City makes progress filling job vacancies. Says the city of Napa has been slowly filling a staffing hole that has persisted throughout the pandemic. Despite steady progress on hiring, the city has 57 vacancies as of the end of March. Interesting. This is all on the Nappy. I did this last time, didn't I? In the Nappy Valley Register. The Napa Valley Register. So there we go. There's some of the stories making the headlines there. We've got a couple more to get through, and then we're going to look at a couple of other things. One more, actually. The Tular Advanced Register. Where is Tular? Not a clue. California, I presume. Oh, no, maybe not. Maybe it's Colorado. Is it California? No. Colorado River. It is California. Colorado River tops endangered list. It says climate change and water overuse has driven the Colorado River to the top of the advocacy group, America's Rivers annual list of endangered rivers. Decades of drought that some scientists now call permanent have exacerbated chronic overallocation of the waters stored along the river in Lake Powell and Lake Mead. Wow. So the Colorado River is the most endangered, followed by Snake River in Idaho, Mobile River in Alabama, Atlantic Salmon Rivers in Maine, Coosa River in Tennessee, Mississippi River, where is that? Lower Kern River in California, San Pedro River in Arizona, the LA River in California, and Tar Creek. Well, the LA River, which I drive past every day, has no water in it. It's just a basin. There's like a trickle of water. The LA River is mainly it's like a man-made concrete river. It's where they filmed the drag race sequence in Greece. Do you remember that sequence? Where they drove up the sides in Greece? I mean, so many movies have been shot there. Terminator was shot there too. It's all shot in the LA River. There's no water. There's no water to avoid. Dry as a pancake. It's a whole new thing. Dry as a pancake. I just read that list out. That's exactly what I just read out. I said... In fact, with the Mississippi River, it didn't say where it was. It had nothing in brackets after it. And I said, where is the Mississippi River? And nobody even got that joke, which is such a shame because it's my best one today. When you say that you've been to California, Carla, I'm very interested in this. What did you think of this place, honestly? Because a lot of people just think it's terrible here. They just don't get it. San Francisco is quite special. The thing about Los Angeles is that if you come as a tourist and you don't rent a car and you just go to the places that, you can get either on foot or on, I don't know, in an Uber, and you look at the tourist places that are listed, it's like that is such a terrible way to experience LA, you know? Yeah, it's horrific. Some of these places on the tourist list are terrible. Like Hollywood Boulevard, which is the first place they tell you to go to. It's like it's a cesspit. You know, you just wouldn't go there. But if you come and you know friends, or you've got people living here and you can go, it's all about like going to amazing homes where people have barbecues on the weekend and have pools, and it's about, you know, hiking up in the hills and seeing the nature and being part of the vegetation and the just the animals. I mean, I can't get to sleep sometimes at night because of the sound of coyotes chasing and fighting, you know, screaming. It's kind of amazing. Also on the front of the Tulare Advance Register, police seek woman in bank robbery. Yes, they're searching for a woman suspected of robbing the Wells Fargo Bank on Monday afternoon. I mean, this is what it's come to now. Russia elevates battle for control of eastern Ukraine. Russia assaulted cities and towns along a boomerang-shaped front, hundreds of miles long. Yes, we know that started. And so there we go. That's the Tulare Advance Register. Let's jump on to some of our subjects. I also wanted to remind you that Backchannel has a growing list of shows, including Haley and Allison's Good Morning. So you can start your morning from 3 a.m. Pacific, that's 6 a.m. Eastern, with 2 hours of silly fun and games. Haley and Allison and producer Will. They have trivia as well as the answers to your burning questions and the news that you might have missed. So there's lots to consider with them and their show, and I really hope that you'll get a chance to enjoy it at some point. And they're followed by Live Every Day with Liv Harrison from 5 a.m. Pacific. So join Liv every Monday, Wednesday and Friday morning to celebrate the little things in life in an extraordinary way. Candid conversations, lots of laughs and plenty of coffee will fuel her and encourage you to live every day. And then right before me is Get On Up with Jam and Renee, waking up the West Coast with community and conscious living. They have it all covered, from what people think to who's wearing what. You'll leave entertained and enlightened every day, and you'll learn how to pay it all forward. So there we go. There's that to look forward to. Let's talk about Derek Chauvin just for a moment, because it was the 20th of April, this day, last year, that Chauvin was convicted for murdering George Floyd. And it set off jubilation and relief in Minneapolis and around the wider US and the rest of the world, actually. The former police officer was found guilty on state charges of second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter in the 46-year-old Floyd's May 2020 death. While supporters of George Floyd had remained on edge about whether the jury would return a guilty verdict, even as cell phone footage captured by a bystander showed Chauvin, who is white, press his knee onto the black man's neck for more than 9 minutes as he gasped that he couldn't breathe before dying. The killing triggered the biggest protests against racial injustice in the US in decades and forced a re-examination of racism and policing. Chauvin was sentenced to 22 years and 6 months in prison in June last year, one of the longest prison terms ever imposed on a US police officer in the killing of a black person. A year since he was convicted, Chauvin remains in the Minnesota Correctional Facility at Oak Park Heights, a maximum security prison that houses the state's most violent offenders. And Chauvin is held in the administrative segregation wing of the prison, kept isolated in his cell for 23 hours. Well, inmates held in administrative segregation is not disciplinary in nature, according to the Department of Corrections website. Sometimes it's used during pending investigations, or where continued presence in the general population could pose a particular safety concern. But Chauvin will be transferred to a federal prison as part of a plea deal after he pleaded guilty to federal charges of violating Floyd's civil rights. Under the terms of the plea agreement, Chauvin will serve his sentence concurrently to the state sentence in federal custody and will not be eligible to work in any law enforcement capacity following his release. His sentencing will take place at a later date. Chauvin wants to move to federal custody, even though it means he could end up serving more time behind bars. And he will have to serve a sentence of between 20 and 25 years on the federal charges, according to the Department of Justice. But he could be released on parole in under 15 years, assuming he accumulated all good time credit in the state sentence. Well, the general reason is federal prison just tends to be safer and nicer than state prison and local jails, according to former federal prosecutor Niyama Ramani. So this is very interesting, isn't it? Because, a year later from this event, what are we left with here? A year later, what are we left with? And how have things changed? I would argue they haven't really changed at all. And that's my concern. I mean, look at the police officer last week killing that sweet kid, Patrick. I'll try and remember his name. Ayoya. He was a 26-year-old from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And he had 2 kids and four brothers. And he got out of his car when pulled over for something as simple as a traffic stop for, his license plate. He got out and he said, "What did I do?" And the police officer, instead of telling him what he did and saying, "Don't worry about it, I just need to check the details," shouted at him, "Get back in the car, get back in the car." And this kid didn't know what was going on. It was like, why are you doing this? And then suddenly realized that it was likely that he was about to get executed, and so tried to make a run for it. And the guy eventually got hold of him, sat on his back, and executed him in the back of the head, on the floor, in front of a residential street. Turned off his body camera. The police officer turned off his body camera. Well, they say it went off. But he knew what he was doing. He knew it was his moment to do this. Now, what's going to come of that? Because, here we are, a year on from the sentencing of Derek Chauvin, 2 years on from the death of George Floyd, and fundamentally, a white police officer in Grand Rapids, Michigan, knows the story of George Floyd, must do, knows the story of Derek Chauvin, must do, and still takes it upon himself to execute a man for something that was just worthy of a fine, a $50 or $100 fine. If indeed he was, guilty of that crime. We don't know. He could have been driving somebody else's car. We don't know. But the point is that he didn't deserve to lose his life over it, right? So what has changed in the year since Chauvin was convicted? Dunno. California's joined us for the first time. Hello, California. Welcome. You can press the subscribe button in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen if you like. And if you like the show, you can subscribe to it. Enigmatic Goat has dropped in as well. Welcome. And No Name is still with us as well. Nice to know that you are here. And thank you very much for spending your morning with us here on Backchannel. This is the Anthony Davis Show. And we're asking what has changed in the 1 year since Derek Chauvin executed George Floyd. What a way to die. I mean, think about that. To be suffocated under the knee of a police officer. And so the phrase, "I can't breathe," became the sound of the protest. And in fact, you go to cities now and you see it like painted on walls.
Gravitas, co-presented by School.
So, this is something that we need to think about and consider, obviously, as we, I just get the sense that what we're looking at now is a landscape where people are educated, people do realize the consequences and the effect of these murders, but it's almost like it's the Truman Show. So like it's not real. Like it doesn't need to have an effect or a change behavior because it's not real, because America is just fundamentally a playground. It's like it's a fun fair, I do sometimes think that because it's so free and so fun and so positive. I just feel like nothing serious will stick. Does that make sense? Maybe it's just me. But I get the feeling that, that there is something about America. To me, it just feels a bit like Disneyland, And if America feels like Disneyland, then people are going to treat America like Disneyland. That's the worry. Does it feel like Disneyland? I mean, is that a fair comment that America is just Disneyland? And therefore, it takes longer for, laws to change and for things to stick because, fundamentally this is it's a play space, It's a fun space. It's not real. And that's why the Truman Show I found so ironic, because sometimes I do feel like I'm living in the Truman Show. Is that exclusive to America? I don't know. You tell me. If you're enjoying the Anthony Davis Show, I am here every weekday, Monday through Friday. That's from 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 o'clock Eastern. So just send me a message. You can see me right now and you're watching on an Echo Show or a Fire TV. Say the magic word, which is say, to get your message through to me. So wake up your device, then say the word say. And if you're listening right now on an Echo speaker and you can't see me, then just go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv. Backchannel.tv. So I also wanted to talk about the jetpacks. This is a very big subject, very important subject, something that is essential if you are living in America in the Truman Show, because it was actually a British inventor in 2017. Hey, do you know, I just remembered I narrated a TV documentary about jetpacks for the Discovery Channel. So I really should know. I mean, I can't remember anything, to be honest. But it was 2017, British inventor Richard Browning set the new record for the fastest flight in a body-controlled jet engine-powered suit. Using an Iron Man-like jet suit, he managed to achieve a speed of over 32 miles an hour over the waters of Laguna Park in Reading of the UK. I mean, what is the obsession with the jetpack? Is it the idea that we're just like, we can fly? That man fundamentally needs to be able to fly, that we should really have wings. I think that's what it is. We dream about being able to fly, don't we? It's a recurring dream. Well, this guy's effort set a new flight record. It made it into the Guinness World Records, and yet it's just one in a long line of experiments by mankind into achieving perfect personal flight. The passion for jetpacks and suit-powered flight started off in the world of science fiction, but quickly became a dangerous, if enthralling, reality. From the pages of science fiction to the modern day, we look back at the history of man's quest for personal flight over the last 70 years. I think it all started out in a science fiction comic, 1928, The Skylark of Space. That was the first time man dreamt of powered flight and put pen to paper, 1928. There's a photograph of a guy in a kind of jetpack type thing, on the front of Amazing Stories, 25 cents. King of the Rocket Men was another one, 1949. Sean Connery in the movie Thunderball in 1965. That was a James Bond film. Bell Aerosystems' rocket belt was used by James Bond after Bond assassinates Jacques Buffard. He uses the jetpack to make his escape with a short flight over the top of a chateau and out of the reach of the enemy. I think that, I do remember that. I mean, that was such a great moment, wasn't it? Rocketeer, 1982. Rocketeer proved to be such a popular comic book series, they also made its way into video games and movies. Never heard of the Rocketeer. I mean, I guess that's what Iron Man is the Rocketeer, because it looks like the Iron Man costume. And then there was a kind of flying machine that the US Army created. This is interesting. In 1954, the HZ-1 Aerocycle was created for the US Army as a one-man personal helicopter that was intended to be easily flown by infantrymen as an aerial reconnaissance vehicle. Unsurprisingly, it never made it to the battlefield as a number of crashes caused the project to be abandoned. It does look pretty dangerous. It looks like a kind of a drone with the man standing on the top. I mean, the crazy thing about this is the blades are like right underneath the man standing, and so if he was to fall, he'd fall into the blades and be chopped up into a gazillion pieces. The design was pretty interesting. Flight was intended to last for up to 40 minutes, and after just 20 minutes of training on how to fly the vehicle, the HZ-1 Aerocycle could reach speeds of 75 miles an hour with a 15-mile range and a flight ceiling of 5,000 feet. That's quite amazing. They kind of made an improved version, the Hiller VS-1 Pawnee in 1957. I cannot see how that worked. And then the rocket belt in 1961. This is the one that James Bond wore. That's kind of pretty amazing. But let's go more recent, shall we? NASA. They created the Manned Maneuvering Unit in 1984. It was a jetpack technology in the form of the Manned Maneuvering Unit. Its system allowed the astronaut Bruce McCandless to venture further away from his ship than any astronaut had before him. His 320-foot journey away from the orbiter was a new record for human travel and a taste of the future of space exploration. Yes, I mean, this is terrifying, isn't it? So this basically was like the jetpack was attached, but of course you don't need much jet when you're in orbit. Just need a little puff here and there to kind of propel you. And can you imagine what it must have been like to go up in the space shuttle, in the orbiter, to get out of the space shuttle and say, you know something, guys? Going for a little walk. You know? I mean, it's incredible, isn't it, that you trust your equipment so much. I mean, I suppose we do that in everything. You know, I've flown an aeroplane, and obviously you trust the aeroplane when you take off, and you're like off the ground. And you're like, I trust that this equipment is going to get me back home. And then the winged suit I always found very interesting. It started in 2005. Visa Parvavian took a leap of faith from a hot air balloon in a turbojet-engineered wingsuit. The flight was powered by the two small engines attached to his feet, but the design of the wingsuit also supported longer and more successful flight. I mean, they are kind of amazing, those, the wingsuits. And then there was the jet wing pack in 2006. Do you remember that guy, the Swiss military-trained pilot? His name was Yves Rossi. He became Jetman in 2006 when he took to the skies using a carbon fiber winged jet engine powered suit. He basically built himself as the fuselage in a mini aeroplane. Like, he was the fuselage and he wore the wings. He was kind of amazing. And that's right, he did a promotion with Emirates and they flew their Airbus A380 over Dubai, and he flew alongside it. There was this whole promotion. It was amazing. I remember that. I'm trying to look for kind of more famous ones. Oh yes, there was NASA's Puffin. That was the one that was like a miniature aeroplane. Could do vertical takeoff and landing. Yeah, it was more of a concept though. And what else did we have? The JB-9 by Jetpack Aviation. Personal flight craft was unique in several ways, not least was the approval for public flight the jetpack acquired from the American Federal Aviation Administration. What? The FAA allowed you to fly this? It was said to be safe, reliable, and simple to operate. It's since been used for private events, military and industrial contracts, and more. And then in 2017, there's one called Gravity, a personal flight suit. The closest any man has come to Iron Man-like flight with wrist-mounted jet engines. The Gravity flight suit included an ectoskeleton that designed for vertical takeoff. Oh, that's the one where, yeah, I know the one. It's kind of, yeah, there seems to be very little equipment, just a very powerful jet engine that you're holding in your hands. Anyway, this is, all part of the fun. Listen, if you want to subscribe to the show, go to the bottom left-hand corner of your screen and hit subscribe. Thank you for joining me. I'm Anthony Davis. 2 ways you can support the show. If you're watching right now, click that subscribe button down on the left-hand corner of your screen. Another way is, no matter where you're watching or how you're watching, leave a review. So go to backchannel.tv and click leave a review. Your positive reviews help the show going. So that's backchannel.tv and click leave a review. I'm here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. Pacific. Come back tomorrow. Just say to your Echo, open Backchannel. That's open Backchannel. Coming up next is your pal Hal.